Welcome to the Health and Wellness Marketplace. Here's your host, Laura Lewis.
Hello and welcome to the Health and Wellness Marketplace. I'm your host, Laura Lewis. We have a great show for you today. Before we get started, though, I want to encourage you to visit our website, thehealthandwellnessmarketplace.com. Here you can learn more about the show, our guests, and the products we feature in the marketplace. There is also a Contact Us link that you can use to give us your feedback or submit questions that you would like answered on the show. Joining me today is Richard Lentz, the leader in the organic farming industry. Richard?
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. Here at the Marketplace, we always promote organic foods over non-organic foods because organic is really better for your overall health and wellness. Richard, what makes organic a healthier option?
Well, for us, it's almost no choice because it's the difference between feeding chemicals to your plants or feeding chemicals to you, because eventually those plants and vegetables are going to go into you. And natural is so much easier, really. You know, people say organic is a very difficult option because it's a lot more work, but it's not. It really, you have a plant that's going to resist fungi and all sorts of parasite infections and insects because nature made it right. And these plants have been resistant to these kind of insects and bugs and fungi for thousands of years without our help, so we don't need that.
Well, to really explain it, I mean, simplistically, the difference between organic and non-organic food is really the difference between chemicals being put on the plants, right, versus the natural way. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and the natural way is you're just feeding them. Organic is really just, these are our natural vegetable or animal-based products that are going to be broken down by the bacteria in the soil to feed the plant.
Okay, I believe we've got a graphic here referring to the subject. Okay, you can say that word right there.
Agroecosystems managed by organic farming were much healthier and able to absorb more nutrients and maintain soil fertility as compared to conventional farming. Fungi spores were severely depressed under conventional farming methods.
Okay.
What that's saying is fungi are actually good when it comes to organic farming, because fungi were put on this earth in order to break down dead animals, dead plants, trees that are dying, that have fallen over in the forest.
It's part of the natural process.
Natural cycle, yeah. Now, when you're using non-organic chemical-based fertilizers and pesticides, what you're going to eventually do is you're going to kill the bugs that are in the soil, and that's going to kill the fungi. So even if you wanted to fertilize, chances are at the beginning there are no natural microbes that are still inhabiting the soil that are going to help break down those products that you're using as an organic fertilizer.
Is that why they say that fields that are used over and over again, especially with traditional, conventional farming with a lot of chemicals, the dirt ends up becoming sort of just dead, not a living, is that correct? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's dead, and it's also dead because they're regrowing the such intensive agricultural methods, where minimal crop rotations. They're throwing ammonium-based fertilizer for nitrogen onto the soil versus what we do, which is a fish-based fertilizer. So what that is actually doing is it's killing anything that's left in there, and what nitrogen was in the soil as a natural broken down plant source or animal source has been long since leached away. So you almost have a condition where the soil has the characteristics of a desert environment.
Well, and also relative to pesticides and fertilizers, can they actually be harmful to us? I mean, I believe that we've got a graphic that you had brought along with you talking about this particular subject.
Although nitrogen fertilizer using reactive nitrogen compounds makes it possible to feed more of the world's hungry, the unchecked production of reactive nitrogen compounds also harshly affects biodiversity, global warming, water quality, and other aspects of human health. That one needs some explanation.
Yes, it does. Especially, the mention of global warming in the middle of it, too.
Yeah, well, what you're having, nitrogen is a gas, naturally. And if you are using like ammonia, like ammonia that you clean your house with, ammonia also has, ammonia is NH3, nitrogen with 3 hydrogens on it. That's a gas. And nitrogen, that is a very reactive gas, will combine with oxygen in the air to form these nitrous oxide compounds, nitrous acid compounds, and will actually help to destroy the ozone layer. And secondarily, these same compounds, nitrogen with oxygen, like NO or NO3, these are nitrogen gases, nitrogen oxides, will also stop plants from going through the photosynthesis cycle. It will decrease the actual production of the plant, which is weird. But, you know, nitrous oxides are what we measure when we're doing pollution tests for cars. And see, what we're saying is these same compounds can be produced by farming methods that are not using organic-based nitrogen. You'll end up with the same gases going into the atmosphere as if you were running a car.
Well, you know, it's funny because you don't really hear about that aspect of destroying the ozone layer. Normally you don't read about it, you don't hear about it. It's not a topic of discussion. You are talking about, you know, fuel and that type of thing. But it's funny. I'm very interesting.
Well, you know, originally I was studying as a biology major, marine biology, and marine biology, land biology is all, you know, the earth is all connected. You just can't have a cycle undergoing on the land without affecting the air and not eventually affecting the ocean. And what we're doing on the land is we're such intensive farming methods where, you know, sure, the United States in the late 40s through the year 2000, we were the world's breadbasket, and we did this we discovered, you know, these huge intensive chemical farming methods where we're quickly applying nitrogen to the soil, and out pops these plants, which we find out later have very little nutritional value, and then we package them, process them, and they come in boxes and cans and stuff, and nothing like the vegetable that originally was in the ground.
Right, exactly.
But now we're also finding that those same methods are also changing the atmosphere, and eventually these same chemicals, I mean, remember I've mentioned to you that one of the things that we're taking out of the shark liver oil these are fertilizers, pesticides,
all the
PCBs
chemicals,
and everything.
yeah, bad chemicals,
Those come from the rivers, and we're south of California, but the runoff from the rivers, from these farming communities, goes right down. You know, you have water treatment plants, sewage treatment plants that are taking out the sludge, and maybe secondary treatment where they add oxygen so that it doesn't have this BOD, biological oxygen demand, so that when that water hits the ocean, that everything dies because there's no oxygen in the water, and all those solids are just, the bacteria are breaking down the solids and eating up all the oxygen, so you have a zone where fish can't even breathe enough oxygen.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
But eventually it ends up in the ocean, and all those pesticides end up in the fish. And so, you know, these cycles where we're accelerating the growth of some tomatoes and carrots and all that, eventually we're paying for it because of holes in the ozone layer, changes in the level of pesticides and contaminants in the ocean, and holes in the atmosphere.
So going organic is not just a matter of individual health. It's really impacts the global community, and the health of our Earth, ultimately. Richard, we have to take a quick break, but we'll talk more about this right after this break. Thank you. Welcome back to the Health and Wellness Marketplace, speaking with Richard Lentz of Seagate about organic and non-organic. And, you know, really it is to contemplate the organic aspect of farming. And you, which is so wonderful about your company, is that you don't just order the ingredients from somebody else. You actually grow many of your components, and you have actual farms.
Yeah,
that you do this on.
Yeah, we have 2 different locations in Baja California. It depends on what we're growing. Some needs a little higher altitude, and it doesn't like the intense heat. Some we grow down near sea level. We have a couple of pictures. Sometimes I repeat these pictures just because I like to show, you know, this is who we are and what we do.
Okay, sure. Let's take a look.
That's actually
who's
wonderful.
That?
But that right up above where that cow is in that little swamp water, and this just shows you. You know, we're using land that is really just fields where cows are grazing. Mm-hmm. And right above there's a little brown patch. That's where we normally grow the broccoli and the carrots. That cow is a good example of, that's the only thing wandering around there is cows dropping their droppings, and we also use the cows' droppings for fertilizer.
Natural fertilizer,
But, the water, that's the water table, which is about 15 feet below the surface up where the farm is, and that's a little stream that's probably within 2 months of the end of our rainy season, so we don't have to go down very far. That, I believe we were growing broccoli there at the time.
Gosh, it's really beautiful with the mountains in the background. And
there's nothing else out there, just us and the cows, and it's a couple miles down there's another, and that I believe we were growing carrots there. You see that little line going up along the length there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's a little irrigation line that we use, and I'll talk more about it when I do my demo on how to fertilize.
Okay.
That's same plants growing a little bit taller. After we can usually grow carrots, broccoli. Generally, we plant those in April, and we'll harvest them around August. Depends. It's kind of weird now. The seasons are actually being pushed back a month. We used to plant in March. Now we're planting at the end of April because the winter in this part of the world seems to be lasting 1 month longer. In fact, this year we had people that were planting tomatoes. For them, it was at the normal time. They were planting at the end of March, and then they ended up, the temperature dropped so much that the little seedlings were being frozen out, and they have to replant. Each acre will hold about 80,000 plants that you have to hand plant. So losing about 10 acres was close to 1 million plants.
Oh my gosh. Well, you've brought some things here. Obviously, you've got some things you'd like to do today on the desk here, and you're going to be doing a demo for us. What do you have for us today?
This is actually a container of our fish fertilizer concentrate. I don't know if you can get a close-up.
Fish fertilizer concentrate.
Years ago, when we were talking about our very first product, when we were doing organic carrots, which make up 2 products here, we have the carrot powder and carrot and garlic, and the little powder in front of there is a freeze-dried organic carrot powder.
That's so pretty, by the way. Love that color.
Yeah, my wife would use it for paint so she could figure out how to get the color out of it.
Really, really.
And people were hearing about organic farming methods, and they said, well, you process it using your own fertilizer, because most of what we use is this fish that's the waste fish from processing the marine protein, capsules, from the shark cartilage and shark filleting operations. So, rather than throw it away, we just dry it in a hot air oven and grind it into a kind of a coarse powder, and then we truck it up and use it on the farm. And people were saying, well, can't we buy some? And so we just went ahead and started packaging it, just making more than what we needed, and that's how we came up with this fish concentrate.
Well, first of all, before you do your quick demo, what is so wonderful about this? I mean, what's the big deal about using fish as a fertilizer, this part?
Well, fish give you all the components that you would normally buy in a non-organic fertilizer. You have those NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, plus you have everything else, whereas a non-organic chemical fertilizer is just going to give you those specific ingredients. This is almost like going back to the way the Indians farmed, where they would take the leftover fish and plant it in the ground.
Yes, I know. I've read about that before. How interesting.
Yeah, and here you're doing the same thing. The bacteria will break down the powder and break it down into its nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, and all the other ingredients that happen to be making up a fish's body. And the plants that we're using, this is not an accident that, you have fungi in the ground, and the fungus is not going to attack the carrot, because an organically grown carrot has natural protection against fungus.
Because it's hardier. It's healthier and hardier, just like a person, if they're hardy and their immune system is strong.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you have these plants that nature made it right. They were able to survive insect plagues, fungi attacks, droughts, too much watering, fungi that grow because of all that watering, and they still survive. But and they'll do it if they're grown organically. If they're grown with chemical agents, chances are you're going to have a whole field of fungi-infested carrots, because they're not going to be naturally resistant to the fungi where they naturally live in. It's just like they lived in a swimming pool of fungi, because around them, those same fungi are breaking down the fish, in this case, or whatever other natural fertilizer that we might use.
Oh, how interesting. Well, you know what? Before you start mixing, we're going to take a quick break. Hang on one second here. Hold on to your plant. We'll be right back with Richard Lentz right after this break. Welcome back. I'm Laura Lewis with Richard Lentz of Seagate, who is chomping at the bit to create something here with fish fertilizer. So what are you going to do?
Not only I'm chomping, but I was told you've got a minute to do this.
No.
Fertilize this farm.
You have more time than that. But let's go ahead. What are you doing here?
Okay, first, this is for people. This is not what we do on the farm. If you have a house plant and you've got fish fertilizer, which when you add fish to water, you're going to have the equivalent smell of a dead fish in your house.
So are we going to have that here?
No.
Okay, good.
What you do, say it was... Now, Jamie Clark, our producer and the host of the first Call for Health show, decided to pay me back, and rather than giving me a normal plant, she gave me a cactus. So I'm trying to do this fast with a cactus. Okay, say you just bought a plant from the store, and you want to put this in your house, and you also want to use the fish fertilizer.
Sure.
I mean, you're talking... half of a teaspoon, make a hole at the very bottom, and just drop it in there, and drop your plant in.
And that's it?
That's it. And you want to make sure that the soil covers at least 1 inch of topsoil over the top of the fish. And it will decompose, but the smell won't come out.
Okay.
Stage 2 is, say you get a house plant, or your house plant has been growing for a couple of years, and you're definitely not going to be pulling out by its roots. So what you do is use a spoon, a metal spoon, not a plastic one, but you just kind of wiggle it around in the dirt here.
Like aerating the soil a little, right?
Yeah, and you're going to make a wedge where you're pushing it to the side.
Okay.
And then you just do the same thing, take a little bit.
Oh, you're making a little space to put it in there.
So when you pour it in, it just goes down to the center of the wedge, and you cover it up.
Okay. And you do that all the way around, or just in one spot?
One spot near the roots, and you won't smell the fish, and if you do, just add a little bit more topsoil to it. But if you can get it down about 1 inch, then you should be fine, and you won't smell it, and that plant will be happier for it.
I was just going to say, is the plant really, really happy?
Yeah, and this is similar to, you can buy these little fertilizer
staves.
Little
spikes.
Yeah, and this is just entirely nothing but fish. You don't have any chemicals in it.
It's all natural spiking of the soil, for sure.
Then there's a third method, and this one starts to get similar to what we do on the farm.
Okay.
This is hard to do here.
But we're going to do it.
Ever see in these shops where you buy your vegetables or garden supply stores? I don't know if they still sell them. Fish emulsion. They're 1 gallon jugs of this scoopy fishy material. We used to make that for companies like Ortho and others, and I think they used to retail for probably about $8. The fish fertilizer retails for $16, but if you took a jug of water, and this is the part that I can't do because it's got a little tiny neck, but say you mixed 3 or 4 teaspoons of the fish into a gallon of water.
1 gallon.
Just close the top on it and let it sit for 2 or 3 weeks. And this will turn into the equivalent of that fish emulsion. A fish emulsion,
a natural fish emulsion, which is really nutritious.
Exactly, and it only costs you a couple of tablespoons of this. So out of a $16 container, you could probably make about 30 or 40 gallons of what would normally cost you $8 or $9 to buy in a garden store.
I'd say it's much more economical to make your own.
Exactly, and this is what we do on the farm when we have vegetables already growing, where we can't go back and use our plow and tractor to go down the field because we're going to destroy all the plants. So what we do is we have these 55-gallon drums out on the farm where we'll dump a bunch of fish fertilizer like this in sacks or in something where it just can't float around freely.
Okay.
Let the bacteria work on it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll pipe at the bottom of the drum. We'll just let gravity feed into the irrigation system, and it's got to, that's why we put it in sacks, so that those fine particles that don't all dissolve don't plug up those little tiny holes that have to let the water come out of
slow irrigation. Right,
yeah.
okay.
It's almost like a drip irrigation.
Very interesting. My goodness. And so you can get this. You guys actually started to package this. And so anybody that is really big into, like, even just gardening or even just your houseplants, this would be wonderful to have, so you don't have to go and get the synthetic kind, which is really not good for you. Anyway, real quick question before we jump out on a break. What about rose? I mean, would this be good for my roses? I'm not a farmer. I'm not a gardener. Just bought a bunch of roses. Someone who was telling me, believe it or not, they told me to put in Epsom salts in the soil underneath my roses. Put one little teaspoon, tablespoon in there. This is going to be a lot better. I should do this for my roses as well?
Well, I don't know what Epsom salts would do, because that might just change the salinity.
Some magnesium sulfate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's minerals. And roses, this is what Michelle and I use at home for all of our roses, and we have about 50 rose bushes. If you plant it, put some in the ground using that little wedge thing.
Sure.
A tablespoon if it's a big plant. Push it into the ground so the dog doesn't go after it, because that's going to be the problem if you have outdoor animals. They're going to smell the fish and they'll want to eat.
And dig up your plants, okay.
But if you do this 1 month before the first bloom, depending on the part of the country, we had the Horticultural Society of Honolulu buying a lot of the fish fertilizer for their roses, and the word gets passed because you'll end up with the biggest roses, and they'll be very resistant. One of the biggest problems that you have is fungus growing on roses when you overwater them, or if you water them at night. And they'll be much more resistant to fungi, but you'll have the biggest initial bloom at the beginning of the season that you've ever seen.
Oh, boy, I can't wait. I can't wait to try it.
You've got to get it into the ground, though. If they're going to start blooming in April, you've got to get it into the ground at the beginning of March, so the bacteria have a chance to break it down.
Got it, got it. I'll learn a lot from you, I think. Farmer Richard. Okay, we'll be right back. More with Richard Lentz of Seagate after this.
Do you sometimes feel like your life is surrounded by germs? Seagate's all-natural remedies can help protect you and your family and relieve these irritations. Seagate's remedies are safe, chemical-free, have no side effects, and do not require a prescription.
Oh my goodness, enough already.
Seagate olive leaf extract for extra immune support and prevention. Ask for Seagate in your local health food store, or call toll-free and learn more about all of the products coming from Seagate's organic farming and fishing operations.
Welcome back. Richard, we've been talking about organic foods. You just had a wonderful little demo with the fish fertilizer here. Really, I mean, $16 for that jar can make a whole bunch of that over there, creating the fish emulsion. I'm certainly going to be using it with my roses. We've got a question from a viewer relative to organic foods. Let's take a look.
How do I know a supplement is organic or not?
That is a good question. How do you know? Does it have to say on the label?
Yeah, usually you have companies that are certified organic, and because we're actually farming in Mexico on our own farms, we haven't gotten the final certification. So we're not putting certified with a seal on there. Since most of the organic sold in grocery stores and health food stores are fresh organic products, you're basically trusting that the farmer and the store were diligent in doing it, because the store has to take the word of the supplier, because they're going to show them their certification. In this industry, most everybody is honest. I mean, you wouldn't be in organic farming and then trying to cheat the public, because eventually you're going to get caught and you get thrown in jail.
Oh, well, that would be a motivator, to be honest.
Yeah. No, but generally, you'll either have a seal. In our case, we discuss it on the label that we're using organic farming methods, but we have yet to have a certification agency that'll come down. We're so remote, we can't get anybody down to where the area where we're growing this material is to actually come down, take samples of the farm, interview us, do the whole 9 yards to get us the organic certification seal.
Mm-hmm. Is it how often you get down there, by the way?
Once a week I'm down there.
Once a week down, is it the Baja, you say Baja?
Baja, California, just south of San Diego, and then it's another 100 miles south, and then into the mountains, and where the farming is.
Where it's really pretty. And you camp out there?
No, usually we don't stay there overnight.
And you just zip on down there and
zip
check
on
on
down.
everything.
Yeah, we actually built, my wife asked me if someday I'll ever retire, and when we built the plant, we added on a second floor to the office, so we have a bedroom there. Whichever, if I'm working down there, I'll stay there, and I've threatened her with that's going to be her retirement home someday.
Oh, boy, I don't know if she'd like that very much, right?
But we haven't heard any more talk of retirement.
Oh, well, that's right. She's traveling the globe, and you're doing your thing, too. Richard, we've run out of time. It's been really, really interesting and definitely memorable, especially with this. Wonderful. Thank you so very much. That's all the time we have today on the show, folks. But if you'd like more information about Seagate and all their amazing products they offer you can call 888-505-GATE or 4283 or visit their website at SeagateProducts.com. Richard, thank you again for stopping by the Health and Wellness Marketplace. And to all of you, thank you for visiting the market as well. We're open again tomorrow at the same time, same place. So be sure to tune in and don't forget to tell your friends about us. I'm Laura Lewis. See you next time on the Health and Wellness Marketplace. Have a great day.